Let's instead now talk about the fact that Angela Rayner is scrapping plans to limit social housing application to long-term Britons. Now, you know what this means, basically. Once upon a time, if you wanted to get social housing, then perhaps you should have probably, been in the country for quite a long time first. And said, I'm British, my family's been here for a long time, and can I have a house, please, because I'm going to be homeless. Otherwise, she's going to scrap reforms that would have prevented recently arrived migrants from applying for a council house in England. That's going to help things right now, isn't it? I suppose actually the government are trying to get rid of the migrant hotels. They've got to put them somewhere, don't they? But it's not going to please the right people right now, who are pretty cheesed off already. Let's find out what the impact might be overall. This whole policy of putting migrants into housing now instead of in the hotels by speaking to Sally Mitchell, who's a senior mortgage broker. Hi, Sally. How are you doing?
Hi there, I'm really good, thank you.
Now, I can tell you one thing, Sal. I'm 40 years old and I'm still a million miles away from getting a mortgage, and I'm one of the higher earners in our society.
Yeah, you're not alone.
It's a mess out there. Now, all of a sudden, they keep promising they're going to build all these new houses, but the rate at which we're going to have to build them to even keep up with the rate of inward migration is eye-watering. What do you think's going to go on in the mortgage market? What's going to go on the house market in general? Rent? And you know what? Let's also talk about rental prices, because we forget that. We're like, people are having to pay loads more for their mortgage or this, that and the other. And I'm like, well, if mortgages go up, believe me, rents go up even more.
Yeah, and that's what we've seen. People are hit in whatever element of the housing market they're in, whether it's social housing, trying to get on the ladder as a first-time buyer, a renter who's trying desperately to stop paying someone else's mortgage and pay for their own, or people trying to grow with their family or move for work. You're hit at every turn. The good news with the mortgages or mortgage market at the moment is that we have seen a little bit of a rate war in the last couple of weeks. And you'll have probably seen the headlines that quite a few of the major lenders have actually come out with headline rates of sub 4% for the first time in many years, really. So that is good news. But of course, behind every headline, there is the reality. And unfortunately, for a lot of people, these rates are not going to be available to them. They tend to be 5-year fixes. They tend to be for purchases only. So if you're one of the 1.5 million coming to the end of a low rate, fixed rate, want to remortgage, it's not for you. And if you are purchasing, you need to have a really hefty deposit because they are capped at 60 or 65% loan to value. So good news that we're heading in the right direction, but for the average, Dave down the pub, this is not going to make a huge amount of difference to their mortgage price.
I mean, what sort of rate of building are the Labour Party going to need to achieve? I mean, frankly, I think it's sort of for the bird that it's ever going to happen.
Yeah.
When we look at the sort of, massive gulf in availability of houses compared to demand.
1.5 million, haven't they? Which we haven't managed to do in my living memory, to be honest. And also, that's not social housing. So there's the two elements. It's not all social housing. There are 1.3 million households on the waiting list for social housing at the moment. Now, if you suddenly say, well, everybody who arrives as a migrant who gets signed off is now added to that list, that's more than their the government's entire remit for the next 5 years. It's just not going to happen.
Oh. Well, thank you for cheering us all up, Sally. And like I say, I'm looking forward to living under a bridge with my cat. She'll keep me good company, and perhaps we can lighter.
We do need to work on these things. It's not. There's no quick fix. I think the housing needs to be affordable. There's a social housing side, which we are in dire need of social housing. There just isn't enough, and no one seems interested in building it because it's not glamorous, it's not sexy. There's not necessarily a big capital, quick-term gain in it. So that needs to be addressed. But to help other people get on the ladder, then there need to be more incentives and more useful schemes, like the Help to Buy, like some sort of stamp duty holiday or reversal. We don't even know if we're going to continue with the new thresholds of stamp duty in the new year in 2025.
Is that right?
So there's a lot of questions that need answering, and I think it's a massive subject, but things can be done.
Well, let's hope things are done. Sally Mitchell, Senior Mortgage Broker, thank you.